Investigation now stand. Joining us now to help us answer that question is Representative Jackie Speier. She's a California Democrat who sits on the House Intelligence Committee. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us. Let me quickly get your reaction to what the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes is now threatening to do to hold the Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the FBI Director Christopher Wray in contempt of court if documents related to that so-called Trump dossier are not turned over. What's your reaction? Would you support that move?
Well, first of all, Wolf, it's really important to appreciate that that is tangential to our investigation. Whether or not the dossier is true or false is irrelevant in that we have 17 intelligence agencies with high confidence that have established that the Russians intervened in our election. And what we need to do is find out how they did it, why they did it, and how do we protect ourselves moving forward. Now, the extent to which there was cooperation between the Trump campaign and Russia is something that we are delving into as well. But truly, this dossier is separate and distinct, and I regret that the chairman is acting in a manner that is not consistent with the committee's historical perspective of working together and in tandem. And he has been self-recused from the Russian investigation. So this looks like he's trying to distract our attention from what our job is to do here.
Because it is a little confusing. He removed himself from the overall Russia investigation. He's the chairman of your committee, but he delegated those responsibilities to another Republican, and now all of a sudden he's clearly getting involved in the Russia investigation. What does that say to you?
Well, what it says to me is that we as members of the committee need to act in a bipartisan fashion and be clear about what our job is. Our job is to find out with great certainty the extent to which Russia intervened and take steps necessary to protect ourselves. Russia wants nothing more. Putin wants nothing more than to see Western liberalism, democracies discredited. He wants to somehow show that being in a dictatorship is a much more viable form of government. We've got to push back on that. And I would say to our president, it's important for him to be joining with us and making sure that the Russia connection, the Russian involvement is stopped cold.
Well, I want to move on and get to some other critically important issues, but what's your understanding of what Nunes is all about right now? What's he trying to do?
Well, I think he wants to be relevant. I don't blame him for wanting to be relevant, but I think we should do it together. What's interesting is he is focused on the dossier, but meanwhile, we have requested information from the White House and that is relevant to our investigation and have either received inadequate or no information in some respects. So on the one hand, if you're pushing forward to try and get the information you need, that's where we need to be looking.
Let me get your quick thoughts on another issue. The president now seems to be siding with you, with your fellow Democrats, on the debt limit increase right now, saying there should be an increase, a clean debt limit increase tied to some of the emergency funding for the hurricane disaster in Texas and presumably a lot more in Florida that could be developing. What's your reaction to that? Because a lot of Republicans are not happy with the president now siding with Democrats.
Well, we have to keep the government open. And when we did have those 16 days when the government shut down, it was a nightmare. It was a black eye for every one of us in Congress. We have got to find ways to work together. I'm delighted the president recognizes the importance of doing this, that we cannot have the full faith and credit of the United States questioned. And I look forward to supporting his request, supporting it tied to the funding for Hurricane Harvey. We need to start working together.
All right, Congresswoman Jackie Speier of California, thanks so much for joining us.